Welcome everyone. We're so glad that you could join us today. It's 2 o'clock, so we are just going to get started, and we're going to be recording this and putting it on our website as well in case you need to reference back to it. So thank you for joining us. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about this topic. It's always, there's always new weird things. So here's another new weird thing that we get to talk about right now. So today we're going to talk about the Corporate Transparency Act and the new beneficial ownership information reporting requirement. That is a mouthful. Basically, this is the new requirement for businesses, right? To get yourself registered in this database and update your information in this database with the government. So let's do this. Okay, so this is me, right? My name's Christy. I'm the owner of Pack Tax in North Ogden. We do taxes, work with tons of small business owners. That's a little bit about us. We won Best of State for all of accounting firms last year in the state of Utah. And we have over 1,500 real reviews on Google. Not all 5-star. You can read some of the people that don't like us too, but I think that helps give you a little bit of context. But all of that's there kind of to reference us and know a little bit about who we are. But we have clients all over the state, actually all over the country and worldwide that file U.S. tax returns. And this is me, cute. There's family. I got 2 stepkids, 3 little baby kids. All of us live together, plus a dog. What's really fun is that I'm turning 40 this year, and I hope to have a dress made that is somewhat like this Taylor Swift dress that I'm going to wear at my 40th birthday party. So there you go. That's the fun stuff there about me. Okay, but let's dive right into this now. Okay, so these are the things we're going to be going through: the Corporate Transparency Act, the background, what the BOI report is, the penalties, the deadlines, how to file. We're also going to talk about who needs to file. Okay, so a little bit of background. This act, right, it's a new law that aims to combat financial crimes and promote transparency in business ownership. So basically, the federal government doesn't have a database of who owns all of the businesses in the country. And because of that, there's this huge opportunity for people to launder money and to have companies that own companies that are shell companies, and they're having a hard time tracking who actually owns these things. Again, to clamp down on people who are using them for illicit purposes. So the purpose of this new system is to force owners to be reported. So it actually forces the company to report the owner. The liability falls on the company, not exactly on the owner. But it's going to force companies to report the information of any beneficial owner. And we'll talk about what that means to be a beneficial owner. And again, this isn't the IRS. So this isn't actually a tax form. This is something through the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network of FinCen. FinCen's, they're the money laundering people with the US Treasury that work to combat money laundering. Again, they're just trying to get a federal database together of information for all of the owners who own all these businesses. Okay, so what they've devised to do this is they've got something called a BOI report, a beneficial ownership information report. It's an online report that must be filed with FinCen to report information on some people in the business. So here's who needs to be reported, right? So anyone who's an owner with 25% or more ownership in that business. So some businesses that have 97 owners, all those little guys with teeny little pieces of ownership won't be required to be reported in these reports, but anybody who owns 25% or more. And certainly if this is you and you are the only owner of something, you will need to show up on this report. But this second part is also interesting. Also, anyone, including non-owners, who hold substantial influence over the company. So I hate when stuff is just subjective and not like a fast rule, but this is subjective. So this is saying if there is somebody in your company that helps make the decisions, that plays an important enough a role that they can influence the decisions of the company, even if they're not an actual owner, you need to report them as well. I think this one's going to be sticky for some people because, again, it's not super clear. But again, I'm trying to look through all this with the lens of they're looking for the bad guys, right? They're looking for who is pretending to not own a company when they really own the company, and who, and try to funnel the money that way. So I don't think they're trying to make us the bad guys, but they're certainly looking for the bad guys. But keep in mind, again, it's owners with a quarter or more ownership, or anybody who holds substantial influence within the company. Okay, so what companies need to file? Is this you? Probably. So I'll read you the rules, then I'll kind of give you my interpretation. So here's who needs to file: corporations, LLCs, and other entities created by filing documents with the Secretary of State. So this means for a lot of us who are here in Utah, if you are registered with the Utah State Tax Commission, you need to file. Now, there are some exemptions, and the businesses that are exempt and don't have to do this, it's not because the government loves them more because they're friends with the government. It's because these industries already have requirements where they're required to report extra details and report this information. So for example, tax exempt organizations, inactive, or let's go to like certain financial related ones, like, and well, there's a whole list, it's insurance firms and banks and other things in the financial industry that, again, they already have a higher requirement by the IRS. So they will not have to do this. And then on here also is inactive. Now it's tricky because how are they defining inactive? You know what I mean? Like, I'm assuming if there's no business related activity last year, but if you have one of these businesses that's like, maybe you have an LLC that you sometimes use, sometimes don't. Some years you have income from it, some years you don't. I, on this, would definitely be safer rather than sorry, which means if I'm not sure that my business needs to register, I'm going to register. And we'll talk about why. It's because the penalties are so dang high. So there's also this nice table, and this is available on the website I'm going to give you to figure out, are you one of these companies that has to do this? Here's the path most of us are going to follow and how we get to a yes. So were you formed in the US? Yes. Is the company a corporation? So some, yes, right? This would be like if you're an S corporation, that's you. If the company's not a corporation, okay, are you an LLC? Yes, that's a lot of us. Okay, that's going to be you. Okay, what if you're not an LLC? Okay, then it's like, this is like if you're just like a sole proprietor type of a deal, you're not an LLC. Was the company created by the filing of a document with the Secretary of State or anything similar? So this means, again, did you register with the state of Utah? Even if you're not an LLC, even if you're not an actual corporation, if you registered your business with the state, this is now pointing us back to yes. And it says you may be a reporting company, which means you may have to do it. You probably have to do it. And again, I'm going to take the view, certainly for my own personal businesses, of if in doubt, I'm going to file this, because we'll show you that filing it actually isn't that big of a deal. The big deal is the penalties if you don't file it, and the penalties for not updating it, that type of thing. Okay, so we're going to keep on going here. Okay, so let's talk about the penalties, right? Okay, so penalties. Failure to file this BOI report can result in civil, which is like money penalties, and or criminal penalties. The civil penalties are up to $500 per day for every day that there's the violation. And criminal penalties, fines up to $10,000 and potentially jail time. This is a giant penalty compared to penalties that you would normally see for taxes and things for your income taxes. Like if you're a small business and maybe you bring in $30,000 up to $100,000 a year. Let's say you didn't file your tax return on time, right? You're not going to get slapped with a $500 a day penalty for not filing it on time. Even if, let's say, you don't pay your taxes on time, guess what? You're not going to get slapped with a $500 a day penalty for not paying on time. This penalty is so much greater than the penalties that you see related to income taxes, because what they're trying to do is like they're trying to shake out the bad guys. Which, is that going to work, or were the bad guys never going to fill us out anyway? I mean, we could talk about that, but you know what I'm saying? So it's like we're being held to this standard of them trying to catch these really bad characters. And so they've made the penalty so high to really try to scare people. Because you think about it, it's like, man, what would that look like? What if I was just, 6 months late that I didn't do it? Well, 6 months is 180 days, let's say, times $500 a day. That's a $90,000 penalty, which I might have an LLC that made $5,000 during the year. Or maybe it made 5,000, but it also spent 7,000. So I actually have a $2,000 loss. So in my mind, I'm not thinking this is a big deal because I didn't actually make much money. There's no tax due on it. But if I'm 6 months late filing this thing, I'm going to have a bill of up to $90,000. Like, it's so disproportionate for a lot of small businesses of what would be normal for like income tax penalties or even payroll tax penalties. So this is where like I think they're just trying to come out with a bang and make a really loud noise of like, pay attention to this. Don't forget this. We really want you to be in this database. And if you're not going to be in this database, we are going to penalize you through the roof. Okay, so let's talk about some deadlines. So this goes into effect, well, it went into effect January 1st, 2024. So it just barely started. Now, an existing company. So if your company, whether it's a corporation or an LLC or whatever it was that was registered with the state, if it was formed before 2024, right? So up to December 31st, 2023, you have clear until January 1st, 2025 to file this. So you have time. Nothing is on fire today. And for example, like my office, I know we're going to end up filing some of these for clients. Like, we're not even going to do it till May. We're just going to pause for a second. Nothing yet is on fire. You have some time. But something to keep in mind for new companies. So if you are starting a company or forming a new business or already have this year in 2024, then this is a little more dire because now you only have 30 days after forming that company to get registered. So that's so different because especially like in Utah's an easy state to get a business registered, and you can go online and get stuff registered. Well, but what you don't know is that if you don't come here then to the FinCen site and get it registered there as well, you could face giant penalties. Again, even if the business has no income, right? Like even if it's just a loss or if it's just like some little side hustle. The other type of reporting is changes in beneficial ownership. So let's fast forward to, later this year, next year, assuming that we've already gotten ourselves into the database. Because like, that's the big thing is the first time you just have to register. Now you're in the database. After that, there's not like a yearly registration. They don't send you a postcard to remind you to re-up or anything like that. Once you're in, you're in. But then the requirement is, okay, if anything changes, you have 30 days after the changes to update it. So changes mean, did your business address change or entity structure change? Did the ownership change? Did the owner's information change? So do you have an owner that moved, something like that? They want to be updated really immediately. If they're only giving you 30 days, to me, that's pretty immediate that they're looking for an update. So now let's talk a little bit how to file. The filing part really isn't bad. And then we're going to send you out a paper after the webinar at some point today that gives you like a checklist of the data that you need to gather. So this isn't like a tax return. There aren't all these moving pieces. You aren't reporting numbers like income and expenses. None of that goes on this report. This report really, it's just the information about the business and about each of the owners. So again, you're not doing math calculations and there's not write-offs and, other kind of tricks and, things that you might need to know. It's just the information that's being reported. So how you're going to file is you're going to go to fincen.gov/boi, and they're going to have you file it right from here. You click to file and it gives you two options. You can file a PDF or you can file online. I do the online version, but you could do both. It's the exact same questions, which I'm going to show you what those look like. But it's all through this website. This is not through the IRS. This is not through TurboTax, right? You separately need to go to FinCen and file the report with them, right? This is their database that they're collecting. Why can't everybody just work together with the info they already have? Don't know, but it's a new database. Okay, so let's say you go, like I said here, and you're going to go file, right? And you're going to file, I'm doing mine, the web version, and it just walks you through like a questionnaire, right? So here's what it looks like. So filing information, what type of filing? Well, initial, pretty much all of us are going to say initial, unless we did something wrong, then we can come here and correct it, or we could update it again if, ownership has changed. Or newly exempt means I wasn't tax exempt, but now I am, because now I'm not required to file it and things change. So, but then it fills out the date. It'll go through again, like look down here. So what is the reporting company's legal name? So the reporting company, that's the company that's required to file this thing, right? that we walked through those steps. Is it your company? So here's the company's name. They want to know where was the company formed. They're going to want to know the current address of the company, the federal ID number of the company. And then similarly, it's going to walk you through each of those for the owners. So can you see how this form, like, again, it's not math and stuff, it's information. What's the name of the company? What's the address of the company? What's the federal ID number of the company? Where did you form this company? And then it's going to go to the owners. What's the legal name and birthday of all the owners? What's the owner's current address? And then this is the one that's going to be a little more annoying, I guess, to go get. You're going to need the state ID or passport for each of those owners. They are going to have you actually upload the image, of that ID to verify that this is a real person who owns this. Again, so for most of us who are not criminals and are not laundering money, like, okay, fine, here's my ID. It's like, but can you see how they're trying to shake out and find people that have, the corporations and things that have been created that aren't even real people owning these things, and that money's just getting tossed around. But this is the basic information that you are submitting. It's not numbers and things like this. So with this, here's the question: are you going to file yourself, or are you going to get help? We own an accounting firm, and we have about 5,000 clients, about 1,000 small businesses that we work with. And I've already been contacted by a number of attorneys or separate firms that say, hey, we're going to offer this service if you have any clients that want to have somebody file for this. So you can have help. Similarly, we are going to offer this at some point for people that want help filing this. But I took this straight from FinCen. Like, what do they say? Do you need help? Do you need someone to help? He said, well, is a reporting company required to use an attorney or a CPA to submit this thing? No. FinCen expects that many, if not most, reporting companies will be able to submit their beneficial ownership information to FinCen on their own using the guidance FinCen has issued. Reporting companies that need help meeting their reporting obligations can consult with professional providers such as lawyers or accountants. So this means that you could get help if all of this is completely overwhelming and you do not want to deal with it or mess with it or the time with it. You can get help. Great. But it's also something that's designed so that you could do it on your own. Because again, you don't have to know tax law and have studied for years and know all the tricks to the trade and all the codes and things. It's just the information that you need, right? You're gathering the tax ID, the names, the addresses, the actual identification of things. You're taking that information and you're submitting it in their report. So it just, you know what I'm saying? It's like, this is not a math problem. So here's something that we're going to send out to everybody here today to help. So here's a checklist as you're gathering. Now, whether you're going to have somebody help you file this or you're going to file this on your own, either way, you're going to have to gather this data. Like, this is what you're going to need to know. The filing information is like the same questions. The name, the tax ID, the address, where the company was created. You're going to have for each owner their information, their name, their date of birth, their address, their document for their ID. That's the stuff you're going to have to gather. So, and you'll either gather that and then you'll go on to FinCen and you'll file it yourself, or you'll gather that and you'll go to your accountant or lawyer or whoever and say, you guys go file that. It's interesting. I've been talking to a lot of people in my industry. Some accountants aren't going to do it. Some lawyers aren't even going to do it because the penalties are so great if something's wrong. Although there are some who will do it. But I mean, if the report itself isn't actually that complex, right? It's just information that you're giving. The tricky part is the penalties and fines are just ginormous for doing something wrong and for not updating or not giving the updated or correct information. So I hope this is helping you to see at least like what needs to be in this report. And again, you have time. So it's not on fire yet, assuming your business was formed before January 1st, 2024, you will have this entire year. And my office will be putting out more stuff as the year goes on too. Like I said, we're probably not even going to start filing all these until May-ish. That is the next plan. So I'm hoping this was helpful to you. I have put my office phone number and my email address up here, Christy@pac.tax, or our website. You're welcome to reach out if you have other questions. And like I said, we're going to send out two things. I'm going to send out that checklist that we looked at, And I'm also going to send out the link to FinCen's page. And there's a PDF that FinCen's provided of all the frequently asked questions. That's actually very helpful. Again, they've tried to design it so it's something that normal people, like, that normal people can understand and be able to file. So I found their documents to actually be very helpful. So look through those, start gathering your information, knowing that you don't have to do it until the end of the year. I wouldn't wait till the end of the year, but I would start gathering now so that you're prepared. And the system is open now. So you are already allowed to file. It opened in the beginning of January. So you could go on right now and file your report. And then just keep in mind, 30 days is the window that you have. If anything changes, that you have to go and update it. Now, one thing we also don't know is we don't know how they're actually going to penalize people, if they're actually going to be that strict. They're saying they're going to be that strict. Will there be pushback later? Maybe. Will they have to make exceptions because there's going to be too much of an outcry, finding some small business that made $5,000, $100,000 in penalties? Maybe, but we don't know any of that yet. So again, my advice is to proceed with caution and to be safer rather than sorry, to make sure you know what entities you have that need to report, and to make sure for sure that they are reported, that you file that report into the database before the deadline, just so that you're not even faced with, again, those enormous penalties that could be coming. So I hope that is helpful. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we'd be happy to help. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you coming.
Are you there?